This is most interesting. Um, since I put up my preemptive strike video showing where the cops are trying to set me up and where uh, they're covering up for John Nathan Lilly, this all of a sudden prompts a response from none other than Amanda Kirk, um, who gets up here making like all these claims, some of which are completely false, some of which are half true, some of which is just plain retarded. But she suggests that I go to Bullshido and see if they like me. Well, Amanda, of course they don't like me. Sam Browning sells MMA paraphernalia, hats, shirts, whatever, and he basically, bust fraudulent martial arts as a way of tearing down and attacking anything but MMA. The fact of the matter is, they have no training in investigation, and in fact, Sam has skirted the law quite a bit. And he's a lawyer, he should know better, but he also realizes that most people really don't give a shit. And it also comes down to the fact that bullshit is not relevant. It's much like POW Network, ran by none other than Bullshito's Chuck Harding, um, which basically is completely bullshit. And the fact that, I gave Bullshito 2 attempts to try to interview me, to get my side of the story, so they could to give them things to go investigate, to give them evidence if they want to have it. Now, it's funny because, including Sam Browning and Amanda Kirk, and this Jeff Fanson guy, whatever, the idiots at Bullshito, are proving that they don't investigate. They're nothing more than a bunch of gossipy little bitches, because if they were investigating, they would talk to me, they would get copies of the paperwork and everything else, including the fact that, as Amanda's well aware of, the charges against Ashley Redden, when I appealed this from magistrate court to circuit court, was dismissed. She makes the claim that they found drugs and alcohol. No, they didn't. It was never brought up in court. It was brought up as the cop said he had it, but he never brought the physical evidence to court. So we're going to look at some of what she said, some of her claims, and we're going to look at what Bullshito says, and we're going to see where people are trying to avoid the evidence, trying to skirt the existence of evidence that proves otherwise. And it's even really tragic that Jeff Fanson and Sam Browning go back using a expose article, whatever, on me, that was published and then later taken off the internet because it was slanderous and involved several lies and misconceptions and half truths and everything else, which the intent of misleading the reader. And well, it's really funny that Sam's like, oh well, here it is. It's come back from the internet's way back machine. Ooh, feel the burn. I went and checked everything out. No, you didn't, because if you did, you would know most of it is completely bullshit. But of course, what do you expect? It's bullshit when you're all a bunch of whiny, gossipy little bitches who claim to investigate, but all you do is run around with rumors and lies. So the quick screenshot of Sam Browning endorsing Phil Elmore, and saying he's checked out things, which they're facts, because he checked them out, which no, he didn't. But it's okay. We'll get to that in a moment. Right now, we're gonna look at Amanda Kirk and her whole thing. Her when she originally posted, her username was WV Rebel Mom, and you can look at the way she put that, and you can tell a lot by that. For one, um, well, yeah, she is racist, but that's not the point. The point is that she's a rebel. She's teaching her kids to be rebels. She's a rebel mom. She goes against the system, even though her family's tied in with cops and they're informants and everything. She wants to be a rebel. She wants to go against the system. It's okay. We're gonna keep examining. All right. Now, as we start looking at her first postings on my YouTube channel, what you see here is her popping off with who she is. And she even states I was found guilty for contributing to minors. Uh, but we'll get into some of the details of that momentarily. But the important thing with this um, is she says, but yet, you know, they've never mentioned my name. Even though they've threatened me and everything else, they've never mentioned my name. You know, they've never said anything to me or done anything to me. If they, here's this whole, you know, playing we're the victim bullshit. Then she gets down here and says, you know, how you continue to throw our family's name around in your little videos. Let me make this clear. The Kirks are not and never have been related to or personal friends of law enforcement or magistrate. Yes, we've known Daryl Lilly and his ex-wife Pam for well over 20 years. Well, if you've known them for well over 20 years, then you would know that Daryl divorced his wife about 6, 7 years ago and married Michelle Jennings, who Daryl's son, DJ, and his other son, Nathan, John Nathan Lilly, call Mom, and she's related to Mary Jennings, the magistrate who convicted me. So it seems kind of a little strange there. And she keeps saying, you know, get your facts right, okay, and leave the Kirks alone. So we've left you alone for the past 7 years, except for when you threatened me. We won our case against you because of evidence. So I thought it was time for everyone to know the real truth. Well, the real truth was, yeah, you won the case because of evidence, but you won the case because the evidence was falsified. I already have videos up here showing where Ashley's case was dismissed due to well, her getting up here and saying that her mother, the cop, and the prosecutor coerced her into giving false testimony. They should have thrown everything out and re-examined the evidence. The entire evidence of the case was my word against theirs. Now, Ashley has called me since this whole thing supposedly happened, and Leah had got in contact with me through Ashley's phone, calling me, making threats, and everything else. So it's a real interesting situation because what we have here is the fact that whenever I tried to bring this stuff up or to get something done about it, nothing was done because they're the Kirks and they're the Reddens. And just like Ashley told me, the Kirks can do whatever they want simply because they're the Kirks. Well, when you go looking at it, like I said, you go back to Thomas L. Kirk, who's the former superintendent of West Virginia State Police. And as far as whether or not he's related to Rodney Wayne Kirk, I really don't give a shit. Because unless we're gonna go through his family tree, anything you say on the internet doesn't matter. You can lie. You're not under oath, so I don't really give a fuck. But we're gonna keep examining some of what she said, and we're gonna look at the evidence and surrounding facts of this. We're actually gonna catch her in a really remarkable and almost hilarious lie. Right now, when we start looking at the other little postings by Amanda, you're gonna see we're gonna examine one of her little lies. But this is kind of fun. We get on here and after I blocked WV Rebel Mom, she comes back with Amanda Kirk. I actually used her real name, and she keeps going on about we've never done anything, da 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 da. And she even put down there, here, maybe this will clear it all up. I am WV Rebel Mom, aka Amanda Kirk, and no, I've never used YouTube before yesterday. Had no reason to. Yet the WV Rebel Mom account goes back over a year. She says, we the Kirks have nothing to hide from you or the world, so we're not spooked. Didn't know that being acquainted with someone for over 20 years is evidence of conspiracy. I'll get to that in a moment. Our evidence against you 7 years ago is all in court records. The booze you left in our home, the little Skittles, aka date rape drink also. So please feel free to go forward with your little vendetta. You don't scare us at all. Again, we've nothing to do with you for 7 years. The day we walked out of court, day we walked out of the courtroom, which is on public record. Your ramblings only show who you really are. Maybe you need to look at Bushido fraud website. Is Ron Collins legit? See what those people think of you. Well, okay, first of all, you're only aware of Bushido because someone, namely Phil Elmore, tried to disrupt my business. Actually, got himself involved in racketeering by making up these little fraudulent essays and everything else, which is why they were taken down. Um, because it was slander and half truths and complete downright falsehoods. Uh, but and this was the response I put to Amanda Kirk, and you can tell between me and her. I'm more or less calm, but hers is all missing words and typed half-assed, and she keeps putting exclamation points, which means she's excited, I guess. I was like, it sounds crazy to me. The more people say they have nothing to hide, the more they are bluffing. I laugh out loud. Amanda, other than your frame up, you have nothing, and whole pieces of evidence were disposed of by court appointed frauds. That would be my phone records I kept trying to get brought in. I was like, you admitted you were friends with the Lillies, who connect straight to Mary Jennings. Thanks to Daryl divorcing his wife Pam and marrying Michelle Jennings. Yes, that's conflict of interest one. Um, you can't have your friend's mother-in-law presiding over the case. She might be biased towards you. Um, and Duckworth was a buddy to your husband and the Reddens. I know that thanks to Ashley. So, yeah. Here's the thing about it. You've already admitted that the magistrate in this case, Mary Jennings, was compromised by your own words. That she was the mother-in-law of one of your friends after he divorced his wife. So the issue you have here, uh, Amanda, is that you've just admitted to a major conflict of interest and potential fraud, defrauding the court system. What you mentioned was a situation that should have been addressed and should have been known. The Mary Jennings should have spoke up about, because if I felt she might have been biased by it, I could have gotten rid of her. And the fact that Chris Leffler wanted her to be the magistrate presiding over this, the fact that Trooper Duckworth came in there and threatened me, and that's how I ended up kicking his ass in fucking magistrate court when it was in front of Judge Humphrey. I'm sorry, Magistrate Humphrey. All as a sign of him trying to, create a conflict, to put it in a situation to where, people that he knew were in control. I'm sorry. The evidence speaks for itself, and we're gonna look at what you call Skittles. I did some research on this, and we're gonna see exactly what you're talking about. Now, I'm going to point something out. I let Ronan, who is a student of mine, deal with Bullshido because, to be honest, I really don't care. He puts more stock in giving a fuck about what they have to say than I do. In fact, like I said, I don't really see them as relevant. They're nothing more than gossipy little bitches who go about, using any lying, slanderous claims made up by anyone else to go on the attack, to try to attack people's character and tear down their reputations and everything else. And wow, they put a picture of me in jail. Woohoo. Dude, I've been in jail so many fucking times, it's ridiculous. Usually for shit I never did. I don't really give a fuck. All you do is prove the fact that when I start talking about prison-based martial arts and I start talking about gang indoctrination, I start talking about criminal mindsets and how criminals react and how criminals train to be criminals, you prove I'm right because I've been in that environment. Not as a prison guard where I have some cloak of authority to save my ass, but as another fucking inmate where I've very easily been jumped by two, three, sometimes four and five guys at a time. Um, that's the reality. of the world I live in. I give less of a fuck about anything else. The question is though, you know, is Amanda defending Bullshido or trying to advertise Bullshido because she has some connection to Bullshido? Now I know that several of the police officers locally are into the big MMA Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu thing, and a lot of them do frequent Bushido. So the question comes up: is Bushido protecting its members who might have something personal to gain, or is it simply the fact that Amanda's trying to derail the situation, distract the situation by trying to get me to see, to get Bushido to like me and change their mind about me? Which the reality of the matter is, I don't give a fuck. Bushido is not important. They never have been. Um, like I said, they're all a bunch of gossipy, whiny little bitches who are going to go with any type of rumor, any bad claim, whatever, without ever investigating it. And the fact that you have, of all people, Sam Browning, who is a lawyer, mind you, who should know better than to get up and make false claims and the vet stuff based on slanderous and false remarks, does nothing more. I've offered him twice to interview me to get the facts so I could present evidence to him, show him copies of court paperwork and everything else. And he doesn't want to do it. He says it's a deranged fantasy. It's how do you put it? Oh, yeah, conspiracy theory. Well, here's the thing about it: it's not a conspiracy theory when you have proof. You just don't want the proof. You don't want to be faced with the fact that maybe, just maybe, um, one of these non-Bujinkan aligned ninjas out here actually know how to do some spying and some espionage work. I was never CIA or military intel or anything like that. So, the fact that I get my espionage training from ninjutsu just basically goes to show the point. The fact that, Amanda Kirk went to basically had a hissy fit all over the internet and kept trying to distance herself from their connection to the police and everything else. The problem is, if you're friends with Daryl Lilly, you should also know that a great deal of his family happens to be deputy sheriffs, and so there's a question: if you're not associated with any police officers, how is it you can be associated with a friend who over half of his family are police officers? You're not associated with any magistrates or anything, but yet you've known him for over 20 years, which means you know his current wife, Michelle Jennings, who's related to Mary Jennings. You're not making any sense, Amanda. The fact of the matter is, I think you're just outright lying. But that's okay. We're going to deal with that right after I'm done with this stuff. We'll put up these old images of the crap Bushido said, like they actually matter. I just wanted to feel important. And since you brought it up, I figure I'll use the situation. Okay, we're going to start off looking at two pieces of evidence, and we're going to look at a third. Now, the first two pieces of evidence that we're going to look at is the statement of both girls, and there's inconsistent facts that need to be addressed here. And there's some interesting questions that we brought up as well. Okay, now it's important to notice the statement here is actually written by Trooper Duckworth, signed by Ashley Redden. Now, what makes this very interesting is, well, first and foremost, uh, she says that I put a little red pill in her drink. According to Amanda here, it's Skittles. Now, I looked up Skittles and they're chloroseed and cough and cold. It's a type of medication, over-the-counter medication. It's often took by teenagers as a way to get high. Now, the funny thing about it is you have to take between 6 or 7 of these pills to get high. So one pill will not do it. And I'm pretty sure a glass of alcohol, as he so claims, would have got her drunk if that was the goal. Another issue with this is that there is a list of people who were there. A Teddy, undetermined last name. I know 3 Teddys, so figure out which one. Then the other thing to this is a supposed person by the name of John Miner, who moved to California after all this happened. Uh-huh. It's okay. We're going to keep examining. Now, bear in mind, like I said, it's important to realize that Trooper Duckworth wrote this because, one, Trooper Duckworth was a relative of the Reddens. Two, from what Ashley told me, he is an associate of the Kirks, specifically Rodney Wingkirk. Even if he's not an associate of Rodney Wingkirk's, he's still an in-law to the Reddens because his sister married his partner, Trooper Williams, who's related to the Reddens. And that Ashley said that she had gave false testimony and was coerced by her mother, the prosecutor, and the cop. Now again, here we see the mention of a Teddy someone who is my friend, and then this John Miner. And then we come to this other issue, the mention of going to Tobacco Town at 2030. Okay, that again raises some issues because if I went to Tobacco Town, there would be a record of me going to Tobacco Town. There would be some sort of proof that I was there, video cameras, whatever. None of that evidence was ever mentioned. In fact, Trooper Duckworth never brought any bottles of alcohol in. He never brought any supposed pills like is claimed. It was just claimed your word against mine. And the fact that the magistrate is the mother-in-law of a close personal friend of yours that you've known for 20 years. Sorry. It's too close to comfort, and I'm pretty sure that if we actually, sat down and investigated your phone records or hers, we'd find that you've had some contact with Mary Jennings, which is great because since I'm going to bring this up, this is where motions of discovery come in at, and since you've decided to allude that you have known Mary Jennings for 20 years, and I'm sorry, have known Daryl and Pam for 20 years, you fall into this problem that you have now said that there's a conflict of interest. And we can also look at the whole thing with Duckworth and everything else. Since his sister married Trooper Williams, and Trooper Williams related to the Reddens. Ooh. Now, that's another conflict of interest. And then Ashley's statement that she was coerced by the police officer Trooper Duckworth and her mother Teresa Redden and the prosecutor to go along with y'all's made-up bullshit story again pretty much justifies everything I'm saying. Even if you exclude the fact that your husband is a relative of Thomas L. Kirk, and that Thomas L. Kirk, of course, is the head of intelligence for the state of West Virginia, but he's also former superintendent of the West Virginia State Police, retired in '96. Now, I understand your husband sells pills, and he's supposed to be getting workers' comp, or at least he used to, because of his bad back and knees, which is why he carries that cane, but he really doesn't need it, so I really don't care. Like I said, if I'm wrong, if I'm lying, then you can sue me. But that's just going to allow me to ask for motions of discovery, and then when you can't produce evidence, motions to compel, then you got to throw the whole thing out because you can't produce evidence. All of that, and you got to hire a lawyer. And see, Amanda, I've beaten 6 lawyers in court representing myself. Granted, it was all the same case when I was suing my landlord, but you're going to have to you're either going to have to know what the fuck you're doing or bring your A game. Either way. Now, Amanda, this is the important part. This is the verdict order from when I appealed at the circuit court. And you'll notice there's little red blocks that highlight the relevant information. The fact is, I went in there for 1 count of battery on the police officer, 2 counts of delinquency, or extreme delinquency of minor, and I left convicted of 1 count of battery on a police officer and 1 count of delinquency of a minor. And the thing about this is that the reason why Ashley's contributing charge was dismissed was because she went in there and said the cop, her mom, the prosecutor, coerced her. Now, if she thought I was any type of danger to her or anything like that, she wouldn't have made that comment. She wouldn't have made that statement. More importantly, if you had evidence, as you so claim, liquor bottles and pills and all this other stuff, her claim that she was coerced would have been dismissed, or she would get charged with perjury, or it could have been ignored, whatever, given the fact that there was physical evidence to prove otherwise. The fact was there was no physical evidence. It was your word against mine. And it was verified by a police officer, public pretenders who falsified information or concealed evidence, and of course, your close personal relationship with Daryl Lilly, whose mother-in-law is Mary Jennings. Now, the problem you have here, Amanda, is that despite everything you just said on the internet, which I don't give a flying fuck about, despite who you're telling me to go talk to because they don't like me and they say this or they say that, which they're not even relevant to the situation. The reality of the matter is I've backed up every single one of my claims with evidence. All those videos you're pissed off about, you keep saying leave us out of it, is because there's evidence supporting it. And now you're scared. So here's what we're going to do. You don't like it? Sue me. Simple as that. But, hell with it. Fucking just sue me. I don't really give a shit. Your claims, your statements, whatever, are no longer relevant. The fact that, through my association with the Lillies, I've caught them doing all kinds of criminal activity. I was party to several pieces of criminal activity with them as a means of having to gather information. Granted, yes, I know that by saying this, it's only implicating myself in criminal activity. I don't really care. It's after the fact. I was never caught. I had both those boys with me when I was selling. We're not going to get into that. But both of them were trying to set me up for failure. And I went along with it long enough to make the point that they couldn't. So here's where it gets interesting, Amanda. See, my claims have evidence. Yours don't. And you're relying on a bunch of whiny, gossipy little bitches to support you. When, in fact, all they're doing is using... their best bet is to use something that was taken down because it uses false and misleading information and out-and-out lies. So, really, Amanda, what do you hope to accomplish? Distract me from the reality of the situation, what's really going on? I think not, and I don't think anyone's going to fall for it, especially if they see this video.